Okay, hello. I thought I would make a video or a few videos to kind of get you up to speed with the basics of CATIA version 5. I'm using CATIA 5 version 19 today, but this is usually the one we've got at school. So for anyone internationally, you will find different versions, and compatibility does matter between versions. So if you're using one at home, you have to use one at school, the same version. So this is roughly your suite. So you've got your top tools up here, and then you've got your toolbars on the right and the bottom. What we'll do to start is we're going to go, when you're designing F1 and Schools cars, you want to design them in part files to begin with in CATIA. So what we're going to do is we're going to go File, New, and then we're going to type in part. We're going to click OK, and then we will load up into the new menu. It will take us to a new environment. Now sometimes this environment won't always come up, so what you will have to do is click the Start button up in the top left corner, go down to Mechanical Design and click Part Design once you've opened a part. This will become important later. Now usually it will come up like this. It will have 3 planes and the axis system will not appear. However, we'll just leave it like this for now. This is how you'll see your model. Importing an axis system in later is a relatively easy task, so it's not something you have to do. So if we look at our general workbench before we start, we're actually in the generative shape design. So we're actually going to go to part design here, which will load in. And now we've got like a workbench where we've got our planes up here, so that's the XY, the YZ, the ZX. They're all kind of like construction planes. Then we've got a geometrical set, which won't matter at this moment in time. And then we've got this thing called a part body. This is the main part body, so this is where all your kind of parts for your car will eventually go, like all your pads, pockets, shafts, all the kind of geometry will go in there. But we'll start with a sketch, because that's probably the starting point for most cars. So I'm just going to actually copy this for reference, because I don't actually remember it. But there's the XY, you've got the XYZ axes here with the axis system, and I'm just going to use the ZX plane as the side of the car. So here we go. So I'm going to click the sketch tool up here. Looks like that, and it's going to take me to a sideways kind of plane where I've got everything constrained, or I can sketch on everything. And obviously what I like to do is usually just get a few construction lines in. So this is the construction line tool. So here that changes, say, that from not existing in the actual sketch to existing in the actual sketch. You'd probably know that from Fusion. What I usually like to do is just kind of sketch out the various aspects of a car. So this is probably the time to start telling you about how to like constrain sketches and how to do various things. So we'll start off. This is your measurement kind of constrain tool. Obviously, this allows you to dimension things. This allows you to kind of, I don't know, just have a small kind of, well, you know what it allows you to do. It allows you to set dimensions. So the maximum dimension of a car, I think, is 210. So we'll go to 209, right? And then what we're going to do, so this is that gives a fixed length on this construction piece of geometry. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this in line with the back of the car. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this point here on the end of the line. I'm going to hold Control, and I'm going to hold the plane that's on the side. I'll show you how to orbit in a minute, but I'm going to click that there. You can do this by pressing the rotate. So going like that, or you can learn the mouse shortcuts, which is down on the scroll wheel, and then right click, and then you can move around like that. There's a zoom. The zoom in and out is also release the right click and go in and out. And the move is just hold down the mouse button. It's a bit different, but we'll be fine. And to get back to the view that you want, you'll just end up clicking this button here. So this will send you back to the normal view where we're just on the plane. So to get it tangent with the back of the car, or not tangent, but in line with the back of the car, we'll click the back plane there, and we'll click coincidence, which will bind these two together. And that will send that back. So now we know where the front of the car is. Now, usually, when we're designing cars, we need an engine chamber. So what we need is we need to make a shaft. So I usually like to do this in a reference before, so I know exactly where everything is. But obviously it's each to their own with design. So it's, I think, 9.5 in radius, and it's 52 long, if I recall correctly. So this will allow us to, long story short, just know where the rough aspects of our car is. Now this will show. Now I'm going to show you how to mirror this, because we've obviously got half of it here. Now we want to mirror it so the other half is shown. So what we're going to do is we're going to click Control. We're going to hold Control down on the keyboard, and then we're going to click that and that line, right? Then we're going to release and click Mirror. Now what we're going to do is going to click either the plane that's there or the horizontal. In this case, I'm going to click the horizontal because it will give the same exact result. And what this will do is will mirror the sketch. Now, this is almost like an aspect that's done pretty often if you're trying to save some time, but you know obviously how to mirror sketches and stuff, so it's not a huge deal. Next, what I'm going to do is actually place in our wheels. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do this. So I'm going to make them tangent with the line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one like that and one like that, just like that. And then I'm going to hold Control down on the keyboard, click that, and then click the constraints in the defined dialog, and I'm going to click tangency, which will make sure that that line is tangent with the circle. Now, when you use the quick select option, so you see the blue lines that are locking to various places, these are kind of like guidelines, and what you can do is if you bring it out to say if it's touching the line, it will automatically generate a tangent, but in this case you can just do it by clicking the button up there when it appears. Now, we want usually our wheels to be, I think it's 33 in development. Yeah, it's 33 in development, because usually we say it's 32, but sometimes the wheels are a bit out of specification. So we're going to say 33, and we're going to move it down a bit. So it has been a few years since I have done this, so I am not 100% sure on all the dimensions, but this is more to show you how to design a car and stuff like that. Not so much show you how to design the best car ever. So this might be a bit wrong specification-wise, but you obviously know all the specifications. You've been in the competition for a long time. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to position my wheels here. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to unhide, or I'm going to make these non-construction geometry. Because what I can then do is go there, and what we've got is we're going to have these show out through the part. So if we exit the sketch there, which is clicking that, which is clicking the exit workbench button up there, what we can do is we can just exit, and you'll see that the wheels will appear. But obviously these wheels are very useless at the moment because they can just move around and be moved up and down kind of thing. So what we might actually do is we're going to set where these wheels will be. Now, I remember, I think there's a rule of it's either from the bottom of the chamber or to the middle of the chamber of the distance from the track. I'm just going to go bottom because that's what it was for me, and I think it was 20. I think the minimum was 20, so we'll go 21. And then we'll just place the wheels, say 40 or 45, and we'll place the other one 140. Actually, yeah, 140. That gives us a bit of space. So then now we kind of have like a rough idea of where everything is or not everything, but we know where like the most important feature of the car is. or the most important features. So now this is where by choice you can kind of allocate zones. So I'm going to go back to construction, and I kind of like to allocate zones where my stuff can be. So say maybe a side pod here. Side pod's pretty terrible actually, so I might actually increase the wheelbase. So I'm going to make that 160. So I actually define a side pod and it has to be 15 away. 15 away, and we'll make that 2 millimeters away because there's no tolerance, so actually we'll make that 17. Obviously these are your main sketching tools. So this is your profile tool, which gives you pretty much straight lines from place to place, place to place. It's a pretty useful tool. You will like to learn to use it. There's obviously all the other kind of tools, so you can use the rectangle, like all the ribs and stuff like that, which is a useful tool later on, but we won't use it right now. There's the circle tool, which will give you the 3-point arc tool, which is actually a really useful tool that I'll show you in a minute. And then we've got splines, which you probably won't need. It's being a bit stupid. There's conics, which you probably won't need. There's an axis, which you probably will need. And then there's just the dots and breaks and stuff like that, which will be a bit useful a bit later. So you can allocate zones. I usually just like to, have a general idea of where everything is. So say I might just put where my wing is. I just like to have a general rough zone of where everything is, and you can also make lines horizontal and vertical in here. There's a big menu of what you can do, so you can obviously do that, and we want that to actually be, I think it's 15 still, so we'll make that 16, and obviously it can't be over the back wheels, I don't think, so we'll make that 7, just because we can, because it gives us a bit of space at the back still. Anyway, so obviously this sketch looks extremely messy, but what we can do is that we can come back to it later on, and it will be our kind of reference for our car. But that's not an important thing. The main thing is probably deciding where your wheels are before you design your car. Obviously, that's probably the most helpful advice I can give you with this kind of thing. But what we're going to do now is we're actually going to insert a new body. And what this allows us to do is just create other things that might not have been there, that we don't want joined to our, say, body of our car. So we don't want the wheels to be the same as the actual model, like as the model of the car. So what we might do is we might actually use this sketch here in a pad. Or what we might do is, we don't want to make this sketch exclusive to this. So what we might do is we might actually go in this body, we define it in the work object, which means that we're working in this body, right? And what we'll do is we'll go on the sketch pad, and we'll just hold control. We'll kind of hold control over the kind of aspects. What we'll do is we'll go project 3D elements. So what this will do is it will just insert these into a sketch, but they would be exactly the same as the ones in the sketch that we made before. Then we'll escape them out, and then that should be good. Will be pretty good to have that all done. And then what we can do is we can pad those out to a rough dimension. Pad is the solid extrude, which is a tool that you would have usually used. So in this case, we need to use 2 limits. So we're going to make it go out to, say, we'll go out to 65, which is if you're doing just in a general term, and then we want to go. This will do maths for you. So what we can do is we go 65 minus, I think it's 17, if I remember correct. So we got 65. Actually, my maths is a bit bad here. We'll go 48. So sorry, no. never mind. That works, sorry. Minus 48, there we go. Easy. So that will then create some wheels for us to design, and that actually looks a bit far out because I've designed the car for mirror 32.5. So we go 32.5 is the main limit, and then we'll go 32.5 minus 17. Sorry, it's late at night. Anyway, so now we've got our wheels in place. We kind of know where they are, and these can just kind of sit there for later on. We can hide them. I reckon we'll just hide them for now because we don't actually need them in our model. So now it's time to kind of create our part, like our actual body of our car. So what we're going to do is we're going to define the work of the part body in the work object. I'm going to actually go to properties. I'm going to name it car body. And what we're going to do is we're just going to click sketch, and we will, so what we're going to do is we're going to use the wheels as our kind of reference for what we want. So we actually might go back to the sketch that we just made and just unhide some of these things. So say we unhide the ground, which I've made there. That's what we'll do. We'll just unhide the ground. So what that will allow us to do now is actually just constrain everything to this this sketch. So if we say we want to start at the back of the car, so usually I like to just create kind of a box that's going to be referenced, so it won't actually matter. But say we'll create a box of where we want our body throughout the car. And the virtual cargo is usually 8mm in thickness, if I remember. So we'll go 9mm maximum thickness because we don't want to break any rules. And then what we can do is we can move this wherever we want. We obviously want this to be kind of like we want the kind of body to reach to the front of the car, in this case anyway. So we'll go 209. And then we're going to insert another line in the middle of this, and we're going to make it 4.5 in the middle. And obviously that's already gone midpoint, so that's actually annoying because I would have constrained that. Anyway, so and then what we're going to do is we're going to just do it some distance above the floor. We might want this at the bottom of the canister housing, so what we might actually do is we'll go out of this again and we're going to unhide the bottom of the canister housing. So we'll click the construction there, and then what we're going to do, we'll go into the sketch, and then we're going to go to the bottom of the thing. So we'll actually delete this constraint, and we'll drag this down, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go, maybe we can kind of constrain this here, so we're in line kind of with our main goal. Now what we're going to actually do is make all of the green solid lines construction elements, because we don't actually want those mainly. We don't want them to be the actual just square to be our body. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by doing 2 straight lines on this construction line. And usually what we'll do for these is we'll make them in line, so they've got roughly the same amount of space. And then what we'll do is we'll make these ones 65 long. So these will run roughly, allowing for a bit of space either side of the virtual cargo, and these will kind of allow us just to have a bit more freedom with where we place it. And usually you want this in between the wheels to make a more aerodynamic shape. You can have the body obviously thicker, and we might do that, but this is just trying to show you the actual skills you require. Now we don't want just a flat body and then a flat end. So what we want to do is actually curve the body into a kind of pointish thing. So what we might do is we're going to use this tool called the 3-point arc with limits. So what we do is we click on the 2 points we want them to join into. So just in this case, we're going to go this point here and the end point here. And then we can choose the kind of arc we want to follow. So say I want it to curve into like a kind of thing. We can go there. But obviously this isn't constrained. So this isn't always constrained. So what we're going to do, we'll hold control and click those 2 points and then coincidence them together. And then that's coincidence to nowhere because this just can be moved forwards and backwards. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of make those coincident. Nope, never mind. Forgot about that. What we're going to do is we're going to draw a construction line. And to force these to be in line, we're going to draw a line from there to there and then make it vertical. There we go. And then this line can move forwards and backwards depending on what we want. I'm going to make this maybe 5 mil away from the wheel. So, 5 mil away from the wheel. So now this means that our circle is constrained. We want all your parts to be green so they can't move around, so they don't change when you don't want them to change. Obviously we don't want it to go to a point, so we're going to actually delete this, and what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in and create kind of like a half circle, like a semicircle, but like half a semicircle. And then we're going to drag this out a bit. We're going to make that radius, I think, maybe 1.75. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring the arc to it, like that. And we're just going to make these tangent. We're going to make those tangent, and then we're going to constrain that point there to that point there. And there we go. So we've got our main, we got what we want. So then we can unhide that. So there we got like kind of the back profile of our car kind of thing. And obviously we do the same thing at the front, but obviously it's not going to be. We need to make it a bit probably longer actually. So what we might do is we might make that I don't know, 100. And then we'll curve it in a bit more nicely. So what we will do is we'll probably make that semicircle up here, and I've ruined that. And I've done stupid there. So what we might do here is we might make this a bit thicker so it doesn't break or it isn't infinitely thin at the front. So we'll make that, I don't know, 2.5. And that's obviously tangent there because you can see the tangent there. And then what we'll do is we'll draw a 3-point arc from there to here. Now, obviously we're going to go through the same steps as before. We're going to make this tangent. We're going to kind of make this coincident on that line. So we're going to go there. There, obviously I'm holding control whenever I select multiple points, and then we've got a nice green line. So now we've done this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these obviously normal geometry, and now I'm going to hold control and select all of these. So now we have all of them selected. We're going to go use the mirror tool again, and we're going to mirror it over this. So here we go, and if we leave this sketch now, it's going to look something like this. Now you see this black dot, like this black kind of style dot up here and up here. If there's any of those in our sketch, we know that it's still open geometry, but it seems like it's pretty good at the moment for this. So now what we can do is we're going to pad this. So we're going to go use the pad tool once again. And what we're going to do is that we did 32.5 minus 17. Minus 17. Cool. So if we have a look at that, we've got nice body defined at 15.5. And if we look at our wheels, they're kind of just sharing with it at the moment. Now, you can using this method, you can kind of just create the side pods and everything else as well. You can generate the shape that you want. So you can like kind of just very roughly, we're just going to do this very quickly because I want to keep this short so you're not wasting your time. So let's just assume that's your side pod. It's very terrible. I really hope you don't go with that kind of design. Let's just say we've got a triangle as a side pod. Now, this is another way you can use the pad tool. So what we can do is we can use these other tools. So say we can go up to, say, surface or plane, which we'll use the plane tool in this case. So we'll click on the surface of the wheel, and then what we will do to make it so it doesn't go through the body is we're going to go up to another plane, and then we're going to click on the side of that. So this only works for flat surfaces. So if you're going to use a surface, you use the up to surface tool, which I will show once we've done some of the canister stuff. But that produces the side pod that we've got here. Obviously, you'll have your rear pod and your rear wing, and that's kind of something that you have to work on yourself. You obviously, it's the same process. It's pretty much just making a sketch and then padding it out. You obviously know what you're doing. You've created one in Fusion many times. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually go back into the sketch over here, and we're going to just unhide the rest of this. So we're going to unhide this section, and this section. That will go red, but it'll update. What is wrong there? Okay. If this menu ever comes up, and you've got the opportunity to isolate, what will happen is you click isolate, and then what you'll see is that if you go into the sketch, you probably lost a constraint somewhere. So yes, so you see it's not all green at the moment because something was constrained to this. What we will do, however, is that doesn't matter. What we'll just leave it like that for now. I don't really want to have to go in and constrain all that again. But what we'll do is, okay, this is actually a good tip, or good important thing. If your model goes black like this, you will realize pretty quickly. And this is really a travesty because a lot of people can get lost very quickly. This can get done by just pressing the side of like the white bits of your part tree. However, this isn't usually always fixable by that because you've always got like a small thing. So you can click down here as well, so that will just send you back to it. This is kind of just showing you where you are in your stage. Anyway, we'll get back to it. So now we're going to make our canister kind of chamber, or our shaft kind of thing. And what we can do here is we can actually create, we can do two things. We can either follow the sketch of this and shaft it, which I'm going to show how, it would be the same kind of thing as, so it would be 52 and 9.5. It's using the shaft tool as you would in Fusion. Oh, not 95. So, and then what we can do is we can make the 3.5 and then make that 3.5. And then we can start curving that into the center of the part, which will make a tangent like that. And then we'll dimension that. Now the important thing about shafting in this, in CATIA, is you have to actually close it off. So if you see the axes tool up here, what we'll do is we'll click around here, we'll bring it around to, we'll go to the start to the end. And what this will just allow us to do is actually revolve it around this axis here. You can actually use the X, Y, Z axes, you can use that in the axis system, but that's something to show you later. But what we will do is right now is that now we've got this sketch selected, we'll shaft it. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose 180, and we'll click preview, and that shows that side. So what this will do is it will kind of place it in there. So yeah, you've got your hole already in the chamber, and this is the kind of more simple way of doing it than the other way. This is just a bit easier, it's less steps, and it produces a really nice thing. You can also create your chamber using you can also use the like pocket tool. So what you can do is if I go back into this, I'll if I go back into this, sorry, and then so I just decide to delete the whole, and what I decide to do here is just go straight down. Obviously it should be constrained, make sure you constrain it, and obviously there is no hole in the thing, it's all still there. So what we can do now is we can kind of use the pocket tool on the back. Oh, sorry, we can make a sketch on the back plane of a circle. So you use the circle tool here, you go in the center of the canister, and then we bring it out to that, and then what we do is we make that 19, and then we can use the pocket tool and then pocket that 52 millimeters. So that gives the same kind of result. There's a third way we can do it, but I don't actually like that way. Using the hole tool kind of annoys me. But what we'll just do the revolve way. So we'll keep it like that. Now that's pretty much it with all the kind of like main features except the edge fillet feature. So what we will do is I'll make some things to make it nice to edge fillet. So we'll just create something stupid to kind of like join the splitter to the front. I don't know, we'll just do that. And we'll just have that go like this. So we'll just have that. It doesn't matter. It's just for the purpose of showing you more than anything else. So we'll just make that 1.75. So now we want to make all of this smooth. So we're going to use the edge fillet tool here. And obviously what you want to start doing is clicking the inside. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I wanted to make this, so you obviously don't want to go thicker for these kind of things than your actual part. So what I was going to do is go 1.5, and that will create a nice rounded edge there. And then we can make an inside fillet here, so that will join nicely there. So that would say 1.5. But you have to use a 6mm drill bit, so you have to use a 3mm inside fillet to keep the shape consistent. And then we can use 3mm there, and that gives a nice-ish shape. Obviously it's a bit ugly, but it won't really matter. So that's your kind of shape, and then you can do the kind of same thing on your side pod, but that doesn't matter. That can be 1.5 because it's actually milling that out. 1.5, 1.5. So you kind of got your side pod, and then you can do your body as well. Obviously, having your side pod be like this isn't advisable, so obviously you can't do that nicely. Yes, but this is pretty much the basics of CATIA. I hope I haven't kept you too long, and I hope I've actually been helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot them to me on my email below. You've obviously got it, so just any questions, kind of shoot it through, and thank you very much for listening.